evening, this is Ray Reeves speaking from Aberdeen High School Gymnasium at Aberdeen, North Carolina. This gymnasium is built to accommodate about 1,000 spectators, and the place is packed and jammed all the way to the rafters tonight. Ball is tapped around. Adams gets out to right of the basket, drives up for a layup and hits it. And the score is 35-30 in favor of Cary. Taylor to Adams over on the left. He dribbles, drives into the foul circle, tries to jump from the foul line and hits. The final score is 63-54 in favor of Cary. And with that, Adams is cutting the net.
Charlie Adams' highlight reel was just starting when he walked off the court victorious that night. With the steadfast support of his parents, Charles began his journey through life. Did these educators realize the impact their son would have on an untold number of high school students? To be a star player on a state championship team would be the pinnacle of most people's lives. For Charlie Adams, it was simply the prelude to a greater calling, not for one student athlete or one high school, but for thousands of boys and girls in athletic programs across North Carolina and the nation.
Charles, I saw a picture of you when you were a little boy with a great big star on your t-shirt, what we would call a t-shirt. That was symbolic and in a way prophetic, because that's what you've been in everything you've tried to do. I've even seen pictures of you as a college athlete playing basketball, doing that very same thing. So for all the people of the state and for all who really care about what happens on the playing field, be it the basketball court, the track, the football field, or whatever, thank you, and thank you from all the people of the state. We're profoundly grateful to you.
Charles' mother was probably the first to know he was destined to be a star. What mother doesn't think that of her son? But in this instance, she was right. Charles Henry Adams was born on August 14, 1936. The first known picture of Charles shows a happy 4-month-old. As a 1-year-old, he was documented with a ball in his hand for the first time. Life was quiet in Cary in the years after the Great Depression. Even before starting school, Charles was indoctrinated into the world of education, serving as senior class mascot. As a first grader in Miss Irma Ellis's class, Charles befriends future basketball star Jane Maynard. Charles displays his gentle but intrepid personality in the note he wrote to Jane.
Dear Jane, I hope you will soon come back to school. Now let us get to the thing. Do you like me? I like you. How is Robert? I hope you like me. I will write you some more. Your sweetheart, Charles Henry A.
A birthday party with pony rides was a big success in a small town. Lifelong friend Billy Rogers stands in the cart while Charles rides his pony. Despite a nation at war, the photos record a joyous time. On the back of this picture, his mother wrote,
Charles Adams Pony, you sold Whirlaway just after your 6th birthday and bought a war bond.
Horseback riding was okay, but gathering his friends for a baseball game was much more fun.
My earliest memories with Charlie and I were in the early 40s, and I remember very well on Academy Street we played baseball in his front yard. We knew every player in the Major League, the batting average, every percentage that there was to know about them. We knew them. We both loved sports from a very, very early age.
Even in grammar school, Charles exhibited his unique character. Mrs. Harriet B. Sharon, his fifth-grade teacher, wrote,
"His IQ would cause me to expect him to be satisfied with only his best for himself and others."
I think one of my fondest memories is to know that my dad was Charlie's first basketball coach. When we first moved to Cary and went to church at the Baptist church, Daddy found out there was no recreation for any of the boys there. Daddy did start the team. Charlie was a member of it, and once the children from the Methodist church found out there was a basketball team, they called to see if they could join. And of course Daddy said they could, and they did. And shortly thereafter, the choir director from the Methodist church calls and says that Daddy has messed up her choir, that he is practicing on the same night as her choir practice. Well, I think Daddy must not have had another night because he didn't change it. And the boys from the Methodist church did continue to play, and that was Charlie's first organized basketball. And even then, Daddy knew that he was going to be a star.
As a teenager, Charles began spending his summers at Camp Mishimoka in Bear Wallow, North Carolina. You won't find Bear Wallow on a highway map, but it was a magical place for the young men attending the 8-week summer camp.
Camp Mishimoka up near Chimney Rock. And that was an interesting place. It was about, heck, it must have been 2 miles up on the top of the mountain that you were just going up a little goat path in your car to get up there. But when you got up there, it had maybe 8 or 10 cottages that would sleep probably 8 boys. And then they had a gym, and they had a rifle range, and a baseball diamond, and a track area. It wasn't fancy, but there was all those kids they wanted to play. And we practiced basketball in the morning, played in the afternoon, and played some games with other people at nights.
I think we probably realized how good we could be when we went to Mishimoka, and we played college players up there. And a couple of times we beat teams with college players, and we were only high school people.
Charles still found time to write his parents frequently, despite all of the camp activities. Much has been written about Charles Adams' basketball stardom, and rightfully so, but he also quarterbacked and kicked for a Cary football team that was undefeated in both his junior and senior years. Charlie was a captain his senior year with Robert Maynard and Archie Beale. The 1953 basketball team was one of the school's all-time best, winning the Wake County Championship played at Wake Forest College. Charlie's teammates appreciated his on-court demeanor.
Charlie was a fiery individual growing up. He was a tremendous ball player, very impressive out there. He was the best pure shooting basketball in high school ball I ever saw, and I played against some pretty good ones.
Bones McKinney, then assistant coach at Wake Forest, presented awards to Cary's star athletes. In addition to Charlie's basketball award, first-grade friend Jane Maynard was recognized as Most Valuable Girl Basketball Player. The 1954 starting five, North Carolina's Class A state champions: C.W. Jones, Donnie Taylor, Guy Mendenhall, Charles Adams, and Billy Mooneyham.
Those guys played like 5 brothers. They were really a strong basketball team.
That same year, Charles and Guy were selected to play in the East-West All-Star Game.
That was an exciting time to be picked to play in that game, particularly because we were 1A school, and have 2 players from 1A school to be on there.
The talent in this clipping comprises a Hall of Fame in its own right: Everett Case, Mel Thompson, the Cary Boys, and Carole King. Commencement 1954, the beginning of adulthood. For Charles Adams, the gateway to a galaxy of achievement. How proud Henry Adams, chairman of the Wake County School Board, must have been to sign his son's diploma. Charlie accepted a basketball scholarship to the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. He played on a terrific freshman team and became starter in the second half of the season. That summer, he joined teammates in the Catskills, bussing tables by day, playing ball at night. In search of more playing time, Charlie transferred to East Carolina, reuniting with Cary teammate Guy Mendenhall.
And I don't ever remember one of the players that played with us named Don Harris. And after Charlie had made about 3 or 4 jump shots from about a half court, he turned around and looked at me. He says, "Good Lord, no wonder y'all won the state championship with shooting like that." And I said, "Yeah." And I said, "Yeah, we were very lucky to have played with somebody like Charlie."
From 1956 to 1959, Charlie lit up the Pirate offense, leading the team in field goal and free throw percentages. His shooting touch became legend, yet he was a great all-around player.
Charlie Adams and I played college basketball against each other. Charlie was an outstanding basketball player, and I was just a so-so basketball player that had to try to play defense against him.
Charlie earned a BS in 1959 and began coursework for his master's degree in education. The Army called in early 1961. Charlie completed basic training at Fort Jackson and was assigned to finance. He learned from a buddy of a teaching and coaching position in Laurel, Delaware. Charlie interviewed by telephone. The school hired him sight unseen.
Charlie came to my home state of Delaware as a teacher and coach way back in the early 1960s. And I happen to think I probably was one of his very first basketball players. He coached our JV team, and which I was a part of. In fact, we went undefeated back then. I can say without hesitation, Charlie Adams had a big impact on my own personal development. Back then, Charlie was a confirmed bachelor, and my parents would have him over to our house on numerous occasions for dinner. What I didn't realize when Charlie was coaching me back in those early days was how influential he would become in my own life. You see, from my experience with Charlie, what he taught me as a young kid, and I took through my life, was how important integrity, morality, truthfulness, and your strong desire of competitiveness played a role in one's success.
That summer, he returned to East Carolina to finish his graduate degree. Old family friend and principal Paul Cooper had other ideas. He located Charlie in Greenville and persuaded him to come back to coach at Cary High School. Charlie then began to prepare for the 62-63 season.
I remember going to his house when he first began his coaching career, and the notebooks full of everything that he had been exposed to in basketball. He had plays and just detailed information about the games. I was so impressed that anybody would have that much information and put it together and use it with his coaching.
Charlie coached 4 teams at Cary, elevating his record to 91-18, with several conference championships. Coach Adams guided his best players to college basketball.
Charlie Adams is coming back to coach us. Well, I was flabbergasted, and he was my hero when I was a little boy that was going to come back and coach me my senior year. And I'll never forget how motivated I was and how my whole attitude basically changed because I wanted to impress him.
My senior year, Coach Adams did a lot behind the scenes talking to coaches, and he basically would market a player, a senior, that he felt like could play at the next level. And I think one of the most disappointing things that I ran into after I left Cary High School was when I got to college, I went to Lenore-Ryan on a basketball scholarship, was to see the practices weren't nearly as intense.
After the first year of playing for Charlie, we worked hard on improving, and really looked forward to my senior year. And unbeknownst to me, Charlie was out promoting me as a player to go forward and play at college. I'd never had that idea, notion, or imagined the possibility of that happening. But not only did Charlie believe that it could happen, he took steps on my behalf that had people from all over the country following what I was doing on the basketball court for my senior year. Had many offers to go and play college basketball. I chose to go to the University of Virginia for lots of different reasons, and ended up there getting a very formidable education and the experience of playing in one of the best basketball conferences in the nation.
I knew more about basketball than you can believe compared to the other freshmen at Carolina. Coach Adams had prepared me for anything that they may have, and anything that we did the freshman year I was at Carolina, I'd already done at Cary High School.
I came from a very good family. I had a great mother and father who raised me to the best of their ability, but we did not have the finances to be able to send me off to college. And Coach was able to work and get me a college scholarship. And I was able to play 4 years of college ball to get a college education.
Coach Adams was very demanding, both physically and basketball was all consuming, which I look back now and I'm so grateful. I see programs now where the coaches just get to the gym just in time for practice. It means nothing. Consequently, it has very little impact on their players. And Coach Adams always made it almost bigger than life, and he worked us beyond what we almost thought was believable, but something it has molded my life. It's got my mindset that anything can be accomplished if you just get after it and work, and that's what we were all about.
I learned so much about myself from Coach Charlie Adams. He required attention and focus. I needed that. He demanded effort if we were going to be on the floor and representing Cary and playing. We learned how to put forth an effort that made sense to him, and we succeeded.
We learned a lot of values about life playing for Coach. We all call him Coach. I don't know if that's a regal enough name for Charlie Adams, but if Coach means teacher and father and encourager and exalter and enforcer, then maybe Coach is a good name.
Charlie even wanted the team manager to excel.
He introduced me to the student training when Kramer had a home study course to be a student trainer. So with Charlie's help, I was one of the first certified trainers in North Carolina high school sports. I was recognized under the Federation of High School Sports as one of the 5 volunteers of the year because of my volunteer efforts. So I got that national recognition through Charlie's nominating me because of my service to Cary, Apex, and Green Hope.
Upon his return to Cary, Charlie found a new source of light and strength, one who continues to shine.
I was sitting in the stands, and Charlie saw me before they warmed up for the boys' game, of course. And he came over and spoke to me, and we renewed acquaintances. Then after that, Charlie called me, and we started dating, and everything else is history. We had planned our wedding for December the 23rd, which happened to be after Cary's biggest game, I would think, with Garner. Certainly our biggest rival at that time. And he told me if we didn't win the game, we wouldn't be getting married the next day. So it was a little nerve-wracking that night. Charlie called time out, and he put Johnny Johnson in. And I think we all knew Johnny was going to take the last shot, but everybody from Garner thought Wayne was going to take the last shot. So I was really praying that shot went in when it left Johnny's hands, and it did, and we did get married.
Rejecting an offer to join Frank McGuire at South Carolina, Charlie decided to leave coaching. Instead, he became the assistant principal and dean of boys at Garner High School. In Chapel Hill, Simon Terrell assumed leadership of the North Carolina High School Athletic Association. Simon was looking for an assistant. Charlie headed the list.
I went through my list of names and stuff that I wanted to check out and everything. He was on one of the lists. and we chatted, and he was ready to make a move, and I thought he would be the right kind of a fellow to operate. He always had a lot of energy, he's always had a lot of drive. He's a very bright young man, and he's got great memory of names. I guarantee he knows as many people in North Carolina as the governors know.
The NCHSAA board approved Charlie Adams as supervisor of officials. From then on, he and Simon did not spend much time in the office.
Simon took Charlie to travel all the time. He had to see every school in the state. He had to meet every coach, I think every superintendent, every principal. So Charlie traveled all the time. And to this day, I think Charlie remembers the names of all those coaches and probably officials too.
When he came on and took over as the supervisor officials, he brought it from, Simon had done a good job. He was the first supervisor officials for the high schools. And Charlie succeeded him and just took the program and just expanded so much and did so well with the program.
Their foremost task was to integrate athletic competition and scholastic sports administration. Black schools joined the association in 1968. The All-Indian Conference soon followed. Another group of schools, the Western North Carolina Activities Association, merged into the NCHSAA in 1977.
The Indian schools were not a member of the High School Athletic Association. In fact, they were not a member of any statewide association because of their race. Charlie was able to go in as a friend and work with the people and listen to their concerns and state clearly the goals of the High School Athletic Association, what they would do for the American Indian people, and also the fact that this too will be able for them to get statewide exposure by joining the High School Athletic Association. And he did just a tremendous job. It was a very difficult task.
I think without a doubt, if one looks carefully at the manner in which our public schools, especially the students, were able to make the transition, athletics has probably been the one bridge that has helped these students come to see each other in a much different light than they would have if they did not have these athletic experiences. In my opinion, more than any other single person, Charlie Adams has done more to build the bridge between the ethnic groups.
Congress added equality to women's sports through Title IX, which added new responsibilities to school administration.
Our women's sports program has just grown dramatically. And much of that has to do with his attitude and his great interest in providing our female athletes with as great an opportunity as our male athletes, providing them with great programs and first-class events. And certainly, this would not have been possible without Charlie's progressive thinking.
Women's equality reshaped sports in public schools and reshaped the association. Expanded programs required more space. Simon Terrell assigned Charlie to find a building site, which led him to Dr. William Friday. The association moved into a new facility in 1978. After 17 years of profound challenges and significant progress, Simon made plans to retire. Charlie was the leading candidate, but not so fast. A background check revealed an unknown past. Most people associate Charlie Adams with success and achievement. Few are aware that Charlie ventured into several unsuccessful careers en route to his current position. He was once a bodybuilder, a commercial fisherman, a school custodian, a lifeguard, a steward on a cruise ship, and had a brief career in construction. His supervisors, observing his technique, immediately confiscated his shovel and hard hat. So Charlie then tried stand-up comedy, pole straightening, gospel singing, fashion design, catering, and guiding European tours. Facing failure, Charlie returned to his first love, basketball. But his skills had faded, and his competition was too young and agile. He didn't even have any workout gear.
Charlie could have been most anything he wanted to be. I thought at one time he should have gone for being a school superintendent, because I could feature him being the state superintendent of public instruction in North Carolina. He's that kind of a talented person.
I think Charles sort of stands alone in that, in his era and his generation in high school athletics. He had some very strong people who preceded him, but he took what he had learned and what had been achieved, and he applied his own standards to them and his own sense of achievement and measurement of achievement. And those were hard things to do, but he has succeeded. And that's why I think all of the people of North Carolina who value what their children learn in the public high school sports era owe him an enormous debt, really.
In 1984, the North Carolina High School Athletic Association selected Charlie Adams to succeed Simon Terrell. In one of his first moves, he hired an old guard as his new assistant.
Charlie Adams is a creative innovator. I think he is, and I sometimes quote him as an idea man. He's always got an idea, something different, something he wants to try.
Charlie Adams, I think, has become the model of a leader who recognizes the need to balance athletics and academics, and he's done a marvelous job of keeping North Carolina out of trouble. He's done a marvelous job in both keeping his eyes on the prize and making sure that local school systems keep their eyes on the prize. As a result of that, I think you'll find that the legislature has the highest regard for Charlie Adams and also has the greatest trust in Charlie and his performance and his ability to give leadership in this area. So there's always the need for the legislature to rely heavily on Charlie Adams and on the Athletic Association to be the standard bearer for not only holding athletes to a higher standard in the athletic arena, but the same high standard in the academic arena, and making sure the two are well balanced. But I suppose I've been most impressed by Charlie Adams when he can sit in a room and not say one word in a meeting and then watch other people share their thoughts and their ideas, and he then is able to pull it together, to unify it in a way that he has the whole group moving in a unified and in a single direction. I think that is the mark of a great leader.
Charlie revolutionized the association with many innovative programs, including better championship venues and an endowment fund.
They play basketball in the Dean Dome. You know, those youngsters won't get on that court unless they buy a ticket and just happen to walk across if they're lucky. That is an experience of a lifetime. But they learn not only that sports are important, they learn that sportsmanship is a key. And they also learn skills, I think, that they'll use the rest of their life.
The ability of Charlie Adams to be creative has impacted the student athletes tremendously. We're now playing in some of the finest facilities in North Carolina and probably in the United States. And that is a direct tribute to Charlie Adams by making that available.
The NCHA Endowment Fund best exemplifies Charlie Adams, the visionary.
He had a vision. He wanted to make sure that we had some sort of alternative funding in place to help the association so that we could help the membership and not have to charge them for additional services. And in 1991, he saw that become a reality. And here we are, 13 years later, at $4.5 million and climbing.
Additionally, Charlie led the association into a brave new world of media services.
I think when I came on board in 1986, I was the first or second person at a state association that had media background. And now there's probably half the states that have somebody either with that kind of background or they've been assigned those sorts of duties. So my being on staff in the first place, I think, is another indication of Charlie's foresight in terms of this being something that would be beneficial for a state association.
Charlie elevated women's sports to equality with men's.
We have 21 programs total, 11 sanctioned sports for our men and 10 for our women. But however, this past year, the very first time, we offered an invitational cheerleading championship.
He tirelessly emphasized academic achievement, leading to awards for individual and team excellence in the classroom. His vision of a student services program became reality.
And it was Charlie who saw the need, raised the flag, and said, you know, here's something that needs to be done, and got behind it, and we were able to help get it done and get the money appropriated. And the High School Athletics Association has really provided leadership, and Charlie was the one who really did it.
Charlie and his staff recognized that, well, we need to be about more than the X's and O's. Let's see if we can't do something to affect those values that these young people are developing. And so he had the idea that perhaps student services was the way to go. We've had a chance, I think, to mirror the issues that are prevalent in society in our student services program, and that, I think, sets us apart then from what some other states are doing across the country, and I think, again, sets us out to be sort of a spotlight or sort of a beacon for others perhaps to want to follow and see what we're doing.
Others are aware of Charlie Adams and the progressive NCHSAA.
If you have a project that you want done and you want it to be analyzed from every source and every angle and then come up with a proper way to approach the problem, give it to him. I guarantee he'll have the best program set up that you could possibly have organized. Everything will fall right in place.
He always looks towards the future. You see Charlie walking around, doing little stuff. Look out. There's a project that's cooking in that brain somewhere, and we know to get ready.
To date, Charlie Adams has been inducted into 4 Halls of Fame. 2 others have delayed Charlie's induction until his retirement. The National Federation of High School Associations honored Charlie in 2001. Membership in the NFHS Hall is the highest honor that can be bestowed upon anyone involved in high school sports. Robert F. Canopy, longtime executive director of the National Federation, said, quote, "There has never been and never will be in the future anyone who belongs in this hall more than Charles Adams." In 1991, the East Carolina University Athletics Hall of Fame awarded its highest honor to Charlie Adams. When Cary High School created a Sports Hall of Fame in 1994, Charlie Adams was its very first inductee. His contributions to the school have been permanent and endearing. In 1995, the North Carolina Athletic Directors Association inducted Charlie into their Hall of Fame. The number of awards, distinctions, and recognition bestowed on Charlie Adams is far too lengthy to be all-inclusive, but here are a few. In 1989, the National Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association presented their Distinguished Service Award to Charlie, citing his innovative and progressive leadership. Charlie was elected the 37th president of the National Federation, the first North Carolinian so honored. He joined numerous playing and coaching legends when the Glaxo Welcome Holiday Invitational Basketball Tournament honored Charlie in 1997. Newspapers across North Carolina have honored, featured, highlighted, editorialized, and profiled Charlie Adams' ability to improve the scholastic athletic experiences of our students. Not limited to his interaction with coaches and administrators or the media, Charlie is well known and respected by college coaches, sports celebrities, and friends. Charlie Adams has collected a vast amount of sports memorabilia from practically every sports celebrity produced by North Carolina high school athletics. The NCHSAA offices in Chapel Hill house the priceless collection. Even though his stay in Cary was brief, Charlie Adams was a favorite of students and faculty. In 1965, the school dedicated its yearbook to him, citing his devotion to students and his winning spirit. Charlie Adams is truly one of North Carolina's brightest stars.
You know, my definition of a friendship is that no matter how much time goes between the intervals you see each other, when you see each other, you just pick up where you left off. You don't have to go back, identify yourselves. The conversation keeps going. Well, he and I have been doing this for years and years and years. Now, My reasons for this is that I know Charlie Adams to be that definition of a friend. He's that way, with sickness or joy or whatever, you'll hear from him. I also respect him very much because he's a real professional. He's been a coach and a player and an administrator. He knows it all, but he doesn't talk down to people. He wants to bring you along so that you can make a contribution, as he has made somewhere in your life, to making the world better. And I think my third reason is that he's a first-class citizen. You don't see anything that Charles does that isn't in the best interest of his community or his office or his association or the National Association. His mind is always working positively. I look upon him as one of the best friends I have.
Charlie Adams has been my friend for 14 years. I became his pastor in 1990 at University Baptist Church. And he and Sue, and you can hardly talk about Charlie without saying in the same breath Sue, because they are such a team and such a partnership. But he and Sue have been dear friends to me and to Betty, my wife, and our family. But with Charlie, you have a person who draws people to himself. Because of that, he's a good leader. I've never known anyone who is better at retaining names and calling people by their names, whether it's one-to-one or at the Dean Dome with thousands of people present. When all is said and done, whether he was coaching a group of rowdy Cary High School guys and bringing them into a team, or whether he's working with a group of church folk, or whether he's dealing nationally and internationally as he does, people trust Charlie. And because of that trust, they're willing to follow him.
Now, it's true with all strong men and good men. You have to look behind them, because there stands Sue. And she has been that kind of influence in his life ever since I've known him. And they make a great team. And this is where most men succeed.
They are so supportive of each other and look after each other and help each other so much. And I know Charlie would say this about Sue. He would say she's been the most supportive person he's ever known, a wonderful person, a wonderful wife, and a wonderful mother. And I think that's true. And Charlie is a great father. He's worked hard to be a good person.
When I came to work for the association, I knew some of Charlie's professional demeanor and reputation, but I didn't know that it would deepen into one of the close personal relationships that I have. And probably if I've gained a lot professionally, I've gained even more personally. And that would be the times when after 5 o'clock and everybody's gone, when we talked about matters of faith and relationships and those sorts of things that you don't normally share with your boss. And I better not use that word, because he cringes when that word is used, because he's a colleague and not a boss. He's the executive director, but it's a team concept.
I can call him my friend. But the nice thing about it is a lot of people in North Carolina can say the same thing.
He's almost like a father figure to a certain degree. The reason I say that is because my family has been so far away for, the 10 years. And so if I had a problem, I could come in, and he's gone through boyfriends, he's gone through, I got married since I've been here, third child. I mean, he's been wonderful.
If Charlie Adams had not come to Cary in my senior year, I would just have been another lost soul. And there's no telling what I would have accomplished or where I've been today. But I know that the direction that he headed me in and the things that he made possible for me to accomplish, there's no words that I can hardly put into how much I appreciate what he did for me and what he has also done for the many, many athletes across the state of North Carolina.
Charlie's always taken care of us. He's been a good friend and a coach and a mentor, someone we always look up to.
Well, Coach Adams, next to my dad, is the closest man in my life, and has been since I got back in touch with him when I was a junior in high school. I watched him play as a kid and looked up to them, but then when I got back and it was a player-coach relationship, he helped me get my first job out of college. I was a basketball coach at J.F. Webb High School in Oxford, and he was very instrumental in getting me that job. And just having him as a support person, somebody I could call and talk to and get his opinion about things has been invaluable to me. I don't know how to put it in words beyond that.
I just can't think of a thing that when you left being coached by Charlie Adams that you wouldn't know how to get through life. And he did all that on the basketball court, and I think some basketball rubbed off on us too. I can truly say that words that he casually mentioned at basketball about if you were going into battle, you would want an athlete to go beside you. And in my case, he may have saved my life because I did go into battle.
When I look and think about friends and influences on my life outside of my immediate family, there's no brighter star for me than Charlie Adams.
Despite a job and schedule that overwhelms most, Charlie always maintained the appropriate balance in his life by placing his family first. No event too small, no occasion too insignificant, no distance too great for Charlie to be there for his family. While traversing the state and nation, Charlie has discovered some great spots to later take his family for fun and relaxation. At home, Charlie spends time with his beloved Buddy and a few vintage treasures. But the tastes of special memories linger the longest.
I can't tell you very honestly, Charlie, the kinds of national impact that you've had, not only on the state associations, but on the individuals who work and toil so diligently on behalf of young people all across this nation. People know you well in North Carolina. They know of your capabilities and the kind of tremendous things that you've done to lead that organization to the forefront of our nation. I want to say how much your leadership has meant not only to the Federation and its membership, but to the individuals who make up the comparable kinds of tasks that you undertake here in North Carolina on behalf of young people all across America.
If I had the opportunity and could come back and do it all over again, I would do it. And the only sadness I have is this is the tail end of my career rather than the beginning. I have enjoyed every minute of it.
My son was able to intern over at the High School Association, and it was a great relationship. It was a great experience for my son, and it gave my son a chance to see how important Coach Adams has been to me in my life.
And I think if his mother and daddy could see him right now, they'd be proud of him.
This was off the record.
Well, as a kid growing up, my plans were to study medicine. I had wanted to be a doctor all my life, and Coach Adams comes to town, and after 2 years with him, I ended up teaching PE at Cary High School. So for that, I'm sure he'll always be indebted to me.
We get there, and there's not any doctors around, so they got me in a little waiting room waiting, and finally Charlie pops back in and says, Mr. Berry, don't worry. He said, there are no doctors here, but there's a janitor that's seen them do this before, and he's going to work on me. So I made me feel a lot better.
He didn't want me to go home. We were playing. He didn't want me to go home. In some way, he talked me into getting into the trunk of his car, and he wouldn't let me out until I promised that I wouldn't go home when he let me out.
There were some things that we did that Charlie was always use his expression. And today when I reminded him of people talked to him about things that maybe were a little risque and so forth in high school, and Charlie will always make the statement, you got me mixed up with somebody else. And this time in my age history, I probably got him mixed up with somebody else.
The benches were in close proximity to the court back in those days, and I knew better than to look over the bench because I knew I was in trouble.
Charlie was so understanding.
He liked having Charlie there because he loved to listen to him eat.
I have a little niche of being the first in a lot of different things. I was also, like I said, the first co-captain. I was the first college scholarship player that Coach Adams had, and I hold the honor of being the first one that he ran out of the gym and almost didn't let me back in.
Bob said yes. Said, yes, I am a little bit tired. And the look on everybody's face when he said that was, he didn't say that, did he? And so the rest of the evening was practice without Bob.
He and I played at least 25 games of horse each time he was over. I will hasten to add, because I know he would tell you this, that he won every one of those games of horse.
He loves to surprise people, which is why this is going to be such a great thing when you're surprised about this.